Okay, well, welcome, Steve. Um, for
Nice to
people
be
who,
here. Thank you.
nice to be here as well. For people who don't know you, this is Stephen Leeds, and Stephen and his wife Rachel have the NLP Center of New York, and I've been working with them for about 20 years now, I think, as a trainer, and then before that as a student. And Steve is, one of my mentors for years and years, and one of my favorite people in this field, in this domain. And I would say one of my hobbies in the last couple of years is really, admiring Steve's work and seeing how he does some of the things that he does, because I very much enjoy modeling. And so sometimes Steve and I will go out and have a cup of coffee, and I'll say, hey, this is what I noticed you doing, and what's going on with that, and is that your experience? So I think that's going to be perhaps the frame of at least what starts this conversation today. And a moment ago, Steve and I were just getting ready to start recording, and I brought up the idea that, when I see Stephen working, what I observe is that he seems to have a belief that his clients will get what they want, what they need, or something perhaps that's satisfying. And so that's where we were sort of jumping off, perhaps.
Well, if I might, Rob, first, it's been a pleasure to have you as part of our center here for the past 20 years and beyond. You're always learning, you're always open to new things and new ideas. And I have to say, since I often in my work, I'm the person identifying patterns and looking for patterns and listening for patterns. And it's nice to know that I don't have to do that. You can do that right now. So it's nice to let go and not have to notice any patterns, and know that that you can, if I'm doing something unconsciously, and you can ask me some questions and help me figure it out.
Yeah, no, it's
I
interesting.
can rest.
I'm sure you've had that experience. Sometimes when somebody meets me and they find out, oh, you do NLP, sometimes they think you're doing NLP or you're checking patterns or something. And very often I'm like, no, I'm actually just eating dinner, and having a conversation. So
Yeah. Like I remember someone saying to me who was just studying NLP, oh, you're matching. When I put my foot when I move my foot, you move your foot. I go, really? Yeah, I didn't notice. It's like often we're not noticing we're not noticing what we're doing, whether you're an NLP trainer or not. When you're doing something well, you want it to be automatic without having to think about it. You're in a flow state, and so even though I've learned by breaking things down to patterns, the beauty of it is when you can just let your unconscious do what you know how to do and not have to think about what you're doing.
Another thing that occurs to me in interacting with you over the years is that that this work seems fresh for you, and that you're engaged and you're interested. It's not like going to the same old job. And that's something that I love about this work as well. But it's every day is a new adventure. So
I had a just certain things, in life, people say certain things, and most of the stuff we hear we forget, or it's not necessarily significant. It sort of just goes in one ear out the other. And sometimes people make a statement and it really stays with you, whether you know what it means or it means something, but I remember the one someone who's still a friend, Harry Schiffman. Had you met Harry? He
Yeah.
was one of David Feitelson's friends also, and
Yeah.
he's a he's a director. He's worked with a lot of talents over the years at LaGuardia High School, and he said to me, about the NLP thing, because we were studying together, and he said, um, I could never do this like the same, because he does different plays, and
Mm.
you're different doing. He directs different plays. He said I couldn't do the same play over and over and over again. It's like if you were in Les Mis and you're doing it over and over again. And I thought, I don't want to do that. But I like NLP, and I enjoy teaching certain NLP patterns and hypnotic patterns. But it's like it was almost like that's not gonna happen to me.
Mm.
That I'm gonna have to keep it fresh, and to each time I'm training, it's a new training. It's a new experience, and always thinking, how can I do it differently?
Mm.
Um, and if I notice myself getting into a pattern, I interrupt that pattern in some ways to introduce something completely different, and whatever that is, a story, a poem, a um, so keeping it fresh. So I'll use recent stories of working with recent clients.
Mm.
Um, so it is about staying fresh, um, and that's what keeps us going. That otherwise, I think I would have stopped doing this years ago.
Yeah, it's interesting, um, training certain NLP patterns, even ones that, we've trained many, many times. It occurs to me that if you're getting bored, that's a wonderful platform to try something new, right?
Mhm.
Um, and being in front of a group, it's a little bit like, you're up there with no net, so to speak, and being familiar with your material is a net in a sense, so that
Mhm.
you can try something new, and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
you have old stories that you can fall back on if need be, and um,
you're right. That gives you the safety net so that you can experiment and you can try different um, new stories or new ways of of proceeding. It's yeah, I think it's really important. We can get caught in a rut of doing things well. Some people, it's like there's such an excitement of learning, but once you've learned something and you do it well, um, there's there might be a tendency for some of us to just repeat it since it's working.
mm,
But then, can you imagine if I had a pill that works all the time for everybody, and I can just someone comes to me, here's the pill. Okay, thank you. That was amazing. And then the next person comes, here's the pill. It's like the guru hitting a person with a feather and
mm,
saying, okay, wow, I'm enlightened. And it would get boring after a while, I think, just the same ritual, the same pattern over and over again. It's like,
mm,
okay, what else is going to work? Um, how can
mm.
I do it differently? It's like otherwise just I'm how could I teach someone to think creatively if I'm not being creative?
That's a great point. Yeah, I'm remembering an exercise from, you know, I think that I learned in jazz improvisation, which is if something is working for you, put that to the side and keep
Hmm.
putting these things to the side. Um,
But if you keep putting it aside, maybe you want to put it above you next time or put it
right.
below you because that could be a pattern too.
It's
Keep
a
on
little
putting it
crowded
aside,
over on the
right?
side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little
Um,
lopsided.
Steve, another belief that I imagine you have, or it seems like something that's alive in your work, is the belief that a person's unconscious mind has whatever solutions they're looking for. And we have this presupposition in NLP that we have all the resources that we need for at least for our next challenge. But I see you interacting with this belief in a certain way, which is if you can bring a person into a whether it's a trance or a centered place, that they'll find whatever solutions they're looking for. Does that match your experience? Is that something that's
Yeah,
alive in you? Yeah.
that they have it, that it exists. We all do, and it's I mean, some people try to convince me otherwise, and I listen to them, and it's really, what is it like to live that way? What is it like to think that you don't have the resources? And then I talk about what it's like for me to live with the presupposition that you have the resources, and we can each have our difference of opinion, but we can discuss what are the consequences of thinking one way or the other. Um,
Mm,
what it's not that I let go of one being the truth and one being false, uh, but each one has its consequences. If you think we do have the resources, or if you think you don't, it has consequences, and I would explore what what happens when you think that way. It's
mm,
like what happens when you think every behavior has a purpose
mhm,
versus they don't. It changes how we relate to ourselves and other people. So, yes, to say that is a presupposition that we have all the resources, although sometimes I would say, I don't know what to do. So it's like, how can I believe that the resources are available even if I don't know what they are? You
mm,
know, um, and sometimes I don't. Just because we have all the resources doesn't mean we always know what they are,
mhm,
um, or that we're going to access them immediately. Sometimes just kind of sitting and kind of getting into a receptive mode, because a lot
mhm,
of times people are trying so hard. What do I need right now? What's going to make a difference? I don't know what to do. I don't know. But in a way, when you're getting into that place, you're not trusting. You're not trusting that they're there. You're worried that they're not going to be there. You're worried that what happens if I don't have the resources? What happens if I fuck up again? What happens if
mm,
it's all that, people are worried. Like even if people have an amazing experience, let's say you have a peak experience. It's like, oh my God, this is amazing. Well, what if I lose it?
right. How do I
Well,
hold it? Yeah.
how do I hold on to it? I don't know how to do that. Um, and of course, the more you try to hold on to it, the more it slips through your fingers often,
Mm,
because you're not trusting. You're not trusting that they will be there and be available for you. So you lose that. Um, it's it's trying to do it all consciously, um, and thinking
I
that
think,
you can do it all consciously, which is we it's not possible.
yeah, and it's interesting. I think, you know, I see when somebody's stuck that in that moment they don't have access or they don't have conscious access to
Hmm.
whatever resource or solution.
Yes.
Uh, so that's a good signal that it's time to open up to maybe a peripheral consciousness or a receptive, like you said.
Yeah,
Um,
you could, another way of saying it is you're cut off and isolated from the field
mhm,
of possibilities, so that you can say, yes, there are infinite possibilities, but I don't have access. How do I open up? How do I reconnect?
mm,
to that place? How do I, that's the, I think that's key. How do I recenter? How do I come back to myself,
Mm.
my deeper self?
And I think one of the challenges is it's kind of like, how do you have faith when you don't have faith? Or how do you
Hmm.
have, you know, uh, I think something that was characteristic in even Ericksonian work early on was this idea of, let's distract the conscious mind so that we can get access to the unconscious mind. And I think, especially in Gilligan's work, it's trying to include everybody in the conversation, in the party.
Hmm.
Um, but in many respects, like sometimes you do need to calm down the conscious mind
Hmm.
so that new information can come in some way.
And yet, when the conscious mind is not calm, you need to calm it down. How do you do that?
Yeah,
How do I calm down my conscious mind? I mean,
yeah.
I do think that one of the things about meditation is being the observer, being the watcher,
Hmm.
to notice, it's almost like I like to think about, like I have this snow globe with the Buddha in it. How do I calm it down? How do I make this stop? What do I do? You know, basically you do nothing, but you watch and you breathe and you watch the particles. You observe whatever it is to be observed, whether it's the judgments you're having. You're let's say you're anxious and you're thinking, oh, I'm an NLP trainer, I shouldn't be anxious. Or if you're judging yourself for being anxious, I shouldn't be anxious. So you're watching that too. So you're noticing and being apart from it. So you can, and while you're doing that, you're also opening up to, what do I need right now? And so you're stepping back from the smaller self or what
Mm.
you're observing, and that's not me. Um, Even I'm not the Buddha, I'm whatever that is. Some people think they are, then they get stuck in thinking that I am the Buddha, I'm God. Um, you know, uh, it's you can get caught in that too. A
Mm.
person can get caught in their ego. Basically, a lot of what I do is helping myself and people to step back from the false self or the like you asked me about being judgmental earlier.
Mm.
It's not that I don't have judgments, but I notice the judgments. They exist. So it's like, in a way, I'm disassociating from these different um, elements. And in doing so, I see myself as being more self identified. I'm not identified with a part of me,
Mhm.
but I'm able to notice when I do, um, and realize and it's not even, oh, that's just a part of me. It's a part of me.
Mhm.
It's um, it's bringing awareness to what we're doing, and um, I think that's what we do, Rob. I mean, we become aware of what is happening, and with that awareness, we can begin to tune into what does he need, what is what is, um, and then to hold the question with a sense of curiosity and wonder. What resources do I need right now to calm down, to settle? Um,
And one thing I definitely observed you doing is you're demonstrating or modeling the state that might be useful for your client to move into. You know,
Hmm.
you're not going, oh my God, you don't have the solution. You're modeling the curiosity, and you know that's an invitation for them to learn that and to join you.
And
Um,
very often, Rob, when I don't understand, and a lot of, by the way, a lot of times with clients, I don't understand.
hmm,
But that's okay. It may not be okay with them. Eventually I do. I trust that I will get to a deeper understanding. But interimly, I know I'm going to encounter things that don't make sense or don't make sense to me yet.
hmm,
It's not like, oh, you're not making sense. Like I would never say to someone, I believe they are always making sense. I may not know what it, I may not be able to make sense out of it.
mhm,
Like the other day, I was coaching someone and who said, I want to be able to get up each day and um, take a walk. And I said, great. Um, is that something you will do this week? And he said, well, I want to. Now, when he said I want to, I didn't ask if he wanted to. I asked, is this something you're going to do this week?
hmm,
And if he said yes, then we've been done. But he didn't say yes. He didn't say no. He says, I want to. So I thought that's interesting. And I said, well, are you going to?
mhm,
And he said, are you committed to doing this? And he said, I want to commit to doing it. So that was interesting. And I said, well, I understand. Is there a difference between wanting to commit and committing?
hmm,
And he said, yeah, when I commit to something, I know I'm going to do it. But he says, but sometimes for no, um, what did he say? For no legitimate reason, I won't do it. Um,
hmm,
you know, I said, oh, so there are legitimate reasons and illegitimate reasons. What's the difference? Like I kept on staying curious to understand what is so he's introducing the idea that there may be some illegitimate reasons that he's
hmm,
not going for a walk. I said, what is example as well? If I lie down and go to sleep.
hmm,
I said, so that's not a legitimate reason? He says, no, it's like being lazy. Um, so I said, is it possible that there is a legitimate reason? There's actually a reason? And he said, well, I don't know what it is. I said, well, would you like to find out?
hmm,
And then and we went to find out what this legitimate reason is. And in searching it a bit, he realized that this he had this part of him that say that's not a legitimate reason. You shouldn't want, and he didn't inquire about like what is going on, what is he doing here, and he finally kind of came to this idea that the there's this part of him that just wanted to not care, like to be free of expectations,
hmm,
including his own expectation, his
hmm,
parents' expectations, his and I said, and I said, do you think I'm expecting you to make a commitment? It's up to you. I have no expectations here. And I said, but this part wants to be free of expectations. Why don't you ask this part you know, what it would be like? What is it? What do you imagine, or what is it like to be free of expect? So I was just kind of going with, and this part said, "Ah, I'm always trying to please, and I'd like to not have to not have any. I just go to sleep and to just avoid it all." And he said, and I said, "What's the feeling?" This is a wonderful feeling. Um, I can never get away with it, and get away from it. I said, but if you could, what would it be like? And I saw like this look of some deep longing, and and I said, "Would you thank this part?" I said, "I see there's a part of you, a very deep, sounds like a very spiritual side of you that wants to have that freedom to be present, to be in the moment." And he did that and said, "What is it? What are you feeling?" I feel so relaxed. I feel so connected. And this guy is very serious and
Mm,
suddenly started smiling. So what I'm saying to you, Rob, is just staying with that. This doesn't make sense. How does this make sense? And staying with that often uncovers something unconscious the person is not consciously aware of.
yeah, and I really like that you noticed where he was being judgmental. I bet he hadn't even
Mhm.
noticed that he was being
No,
judgmental.
because when we're being judgmental, we're saying this is the truth. I have a part of me that is um, illegitimate,
Mm,
but he's not. He didn't notice he was being judgmental. That's just how he lives. That's his ground of being. So I was interrupting the pattern and questioning his underlying belief that
mm,
there are certain parts that don't belong and shouldn't exist and are doing something negative. So it was just noticing that and not and not judging him for being a judge, but be
mm.
curious about what is it that what is it you're thinking, what is it you're feeling, and offering another way of looking at it.
How
So
so?
well, could it be that this part that you think is illegitimate actually has a legitimate reason?
Mm,
He hadn't thought about that.
mm,
Could it be? And usually people will say, I hadn't thought about that. Now, if they say to me, absolutely not, this part is
as evil.
you know, is evil, and I have met people and they don't want to be convinced. So they're not open. So if I say to them, are you open to this alternative way of looking at it? And they say, no, I'm not open to it.
Mm,
That's great. Now I know the person is really committed to that particular way of thinking. And of course, I might stop or I might say, well, you seem very committed to this point of view. Um, so obviously, I'm not going to convince you otherwise.
and I think I
And
recall.
that, and at that point, I'll see what response I get. He might say, "That's right. You're not going to convince me otherwise," or, you know, maybe I need to look at it differently. But I'll
Mm,
let it come from them. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
no, I was just remembering. I I think I asked you a question about this a number of years ago, and you offered the question to ask the person, would it be okay if they got rid of that part completely?
Hmm.
And
Yes.
and that might kind of provoke a recognition that there might be some value there.
Hmm.
Um,
Yes. There have been, you know, 99% of the time, people uh, will say no. Occasionally, people, when they realize I don't want to get rid of that part completely, they start realizing the value of that part of them.
mm,
Um, like a person who's very um, achievement oriented would maybe want to get rid of the part of them that wants to take a nap or wants to um, uh, go, go on the internet or do something distracting. Um, and um, often, when they think about it, they like usually most people will, when I ask that question, they will say, I don't want to get rid of it. Some who do, I say, well, just step into what it would be like to get rid of this part.
Mm,
And, and report to me and tell me, what is it like? What are you thinking? What is it feeling? What is it like to be completely free of this part? Tell me what your life would be like. And if they say, wow, what a relief. It would
mm,
be great to no longer have this part. Oh, I would celebrate. It'd be great. But then I think, well, now step into a month later,
mm,
um, or step into 5 years from now. And I remember some people saying, well, I don't want to get rid of it forever. Well, why not? What do you need this part for?
mm.
You know, why not? You were so happy. What if you permanently got rid of it? They'll say, well, I'd be really, I'd be very unalive, or I'd be very dead. Um, uh, like it's almost like, often when someone, like, say, if you break up with someone, sometimes people are so relieved to break up with this person,
Mm.
but then they start missing them. Um, it's like, I think we would miss a part of us because it contains something valuable that
Mhm.
we may not be acknowledging the value of what that part gives us.
Yeah, they may need that part when they go on vacation or,
Hmm.
you know, another another situation.
Or maybe they're thinking, I need to accomplish this in my lifetime, and then when I'm 60 or 70, then I will have made all this money. Now I can relax and go on vacation.
Mm,
That they're thinking they're postponing the gratification, but there's a part of them that they're doing this because they want to be able to be in the moment and live their life. But there's a part that's not letting them delay. Part, I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait 30 years for this. I need to have more of it now. So I get that dialogue between the two parts.
so it's interesting. I mean, many of the things that we've touched on are, you could look at it as ways of interacting with judgment in a way, or interacting with judgment towards a part of
Mm.
ourselves. Um, and I
Mhm.
imagine it's also the same judgment in terms of other people, uh, and perhaps appreciating something that's going on with someone else. I know you do couples work. I don't really do work with couples, but does that end up playing out in a similar way with the two individuals?
It does. You know, um, I think that, most of us, you know, uh, often in getting into a relationship in the first place, there's a sense of, this person really loves me. This person sees something in me that is beautiful, is wonderful. Um, of course, then there's a question. Um, well, I don't want to go from the tangent, or maybe I will later. But this idea that this person is, you're getting some acknowledgement and validation um, for, um, and that's, um, I've seen relationships where each person is looking for the validation
Mhm,
and upset that they're not getting it. And if they're not getting it, they're not giving it.
mhm,
And they're kind of waiting to get the acknowledgement and validation. It's like, uh, they're not saying it exactly. It's like, you go first, you
mhm.
know, um, to acknowledge me. Where I do think that, um, you know, if someone, can stand up and say, I don't deserve to be treated this way,
Mm,
and the way I'm treating you, you don't deserve to be treated this way either. We don't. We deserve better than this, and we and we need to start, paying attention and giving each other what we deserve. Um, that would certainly be a break in the pattern, and it takes a lot to do that. Um, it and notice I said we are not giving each other what we deserve. Not you're not giving me what I need.
Mm-hmm.
With that accusation, it's
Mm,
an acknowledgement that we're both doing this, and
mm,
that we both are not getting what we need. Both acknowledging not just that you're not giving me what I need, but I'm not giving you what. Let's really listen to what we need from each other. I don't think we're really um, paying attention, um, and that's I think where relationships kind of break down, when each person is feeling alone and not seen and not heard and not recognized, not appreciated. Um, that's where when that becomes the pattern, then that somehow that needs to be broken.
mm.
And it could have started out really wonderful, where both people are feeling, you know, recognized and appreciated, and then it kind of slowly turns into that.
I love this, kind of moving back and forth between relationships with other people and relationship with ourselves, and kind of learning in both of those domains. Um, and like I mentioned earlier, I think what you do very nicely is demonstrate how to stay curious and demonstrate how to notice judgment but not get lost in it, or
Hmm.
it's not a
Also,
destination for you.
yes. And I think what happens is couples um, stop being curious, and they know how the other person's going to react.
Mm,
So I know how you're going to react. So they know it ahead of time, and they're almost reacting internally to how they know the other person's going to react
right, right. They're playing out the whole scenario. Yeah.
before they open their mouth.
Mm,
And that's why if the person doesn't react the way they expect them to, they often go into a trance. It's like, oh, wait a minute.
let's try it again.
It's like if you say to the person, you're such a fucking idiot, and the person usually reacts that way, and you say you're such a fucking idiot, and you go, you don't know what a fucking idiot I am. I am. Um, yes, I am. Oh, you don't really mean that. No, it's true. I'm I really make a lot of fucking mistakes, and
Mm,
you're good at pointing them out to me, and you notice when I fuck up. The person says, "Do you really mean that?" It's like, yeah. Now, of course, that would be a pattern interruption, but can the person mean it?
yeah.
Can the person really know? Um, can the person really not take it personally? Can the person know that you know? Um, yes, I'm a amazingly wonderful person who fucks up once in a while. If
Mm,
they know that, um, then they might be able to change the pattern. But
mm,
it starts, you know, when we change our pattern, it's going to change the pattern with the couple. So what's
mm,
often happening is that where people get stuck is each person is waiting for the other person to change their pattern.
mhm.
And it's about you. And each person's accusing the other person of what they're doing wrong. And then that becomes the pattern of
And that's a
ongoing.
vicious cycle. Yeah. That's
And how do you break it? How do you break that pattern? And it does, it's like one of the things that I attempt to do when I'm working with a couple is at the end of the session, they each have a way of breaking the pattern.
Hmm.
And uh, and so they can both feel empowered that they can break the pattern. um, and how and so that's what I'm looking for. So it takes them away from, I'm waiting for you to break the pattern. How can I be waiting, if we're in a relationship, I'm waiting for you, Rob, to break the pattern, knowing I could do it too,
Hmm.
instead of saying I'm waiting for you to do it. But if I know how to do it, then
It's very empowering then. Yeah.
and then I can say next session, um, if you knew how to break the pattern, why were you waiting for them to break the pattern?
Hmm.
um, oh, I forgot. It's like, so it's giving people a sense of, hey, I'm empowered. I can break the pattern.
And
And
and are
I'm
you
not I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim. That's the whole idea between empowering people, that they feel they're not the victim of the other person.
and are you helping them observe the pattern and
Hmm.
the kind of loop that they're stuck in? So I think
That's
that's a
what that's
consistent
what
thing.
I'm that's what I'm looking to do, to have them see the pattern and see they have a choice.
Hmm. See that there's
It's
a
not
fork in
it's
the road.
not yeah, it's not that it wasn't there. It's always been there, but they weren't noticing it. And of course, once it's pointed out, they might respond, I've been such an idiot. How come I didn't see this pattern? What's
Hmm.
wrong with me? It's the fork in the road, and it took me to. It took. I had to go to a therapist and pay for money to see what I should have known in the first place. Well, I said, well, there's the pattern again.
Hmm.
Notice what you're doing. Instead of recognizing, you did the best you can with your awareness. So now that you become aware of the pattern, now you're criticizing yourself for not having done it sooner. And look at that. You're being pretty harsh on yourself, aren't you? Um, you just
And
discovered something amazing. Congratulations, this is great. You hadn't been aware of it. Now you're learning,
hmm.
but there is that part of you that judges you for not having learned it before. Um,
And it's I think that not only are you helping them see the pattern, I think a lot of times couples are aware of a pattern, but you're helping them see it from a different state,
mhm.
right? Because maybe they're like, oh, it's the same thing every time I do this and they do that, and so they're seeing it through frustration or anger, and maybe you're helping them see it through curiosity.
Yeah, and exactly. And because they've lost that curiosity. Um, and very often they're blaming the other person. And
Hmm.
when I point out that they have some agency, then they blame themselves. So they're
Hmm.
still doing the pattern. They're in a blame frame, but now they just shifted it from themselves from the other person to themselves. And I say, well, that's the same pattern. And of course, it's important for me to do it without me then being the judge
Right. And
and saying, look,
yeah.
there you go again. First you're judging the other person, then you're judging yourself. What's wrong with you? Now,
Right.
I might do that to make them laugh if I
Yeah.
have good rapport with them and they can
Mm.
see the humor in it.
Hmm.
But some of them will just, think, oh, here's a therapist judging them for doing it. So I could use it as humor if I have enough rapport with them,
Mm.
or it's more like saying, um, give yourself a break,
Mm.
um, you know, something like that.
Mm. I have a bunch more threads that I would like to pursue, but I'm going to say like let's stop there for now. And thank you for that journey. Um, I really enjoy, just like I enjoy when we go on a walk or have a cup of coffee. Um, Now other
Well, we
people
just
can enjoy that.
we just went for an inner walk without any coffee. And
Yeah. Yeah.
actually, I had my matcha. This is my matcha tea. It's not a coffee.
Nice. Macho tea. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you, Steve. Until next time.
Well, thanks for the invitation. I appreciate it.